YouTube. This is Marcus, the debt-free dad here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about investing in real estate. First and foremost, I am a licensed attorney, but I'm definitely not y'all attorney, so always make sure you follow your local, state rules and regulations when it comes to property taxes, property, real estate investment, and federal guidelines. Got to throw that disclaimer out there. This is not legal advice. This is my opinion, and this is what I'm providing to you all. So let's jump right in it. We're talking about real estate investment, the basic fundamental foundational principles of investing in real estate. I've personally been investing in real estate now for about 13 years. This includes rental property aspects, so hey, having that kind of landlord function, and also just purchasing land outright, no structure on it, just land. So I've been doing it now for probably about 13 years. The first thing we have to do is really define what real estate investing is. Generally, an investment, in my eyes, is something that's 5 years or more. So if it's 5 years or more, I consider that an investment. So for purposes of this discussion, I don't consider flipping property as an investment, even though it is a form of investing. It's purchase a property, fix it up. I bought a distressed property at a lower rate, maybe a foreclosure, fixed it up, did some repairs, in 2 or 3 months I sell it, I make a profit. That's not what this conversation is. This conversation also isn't about the type of income you can make from, hey, I buy a property in the suburbs, it's beautiful, I got the white picket fence and the minivan out front, and the kids playing in the yard, but after 2 or 3 years, I want to move into something bigger or something smaller, I sell it, I'm fortunate enough to make some proceeds because the house has increased in value. Again, that is a form of investment, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about here is consistent rental proceeds that you receive every month from your ownership interest in a piece of real property. And so now, next we got to look at active income versus passive income. I think this is, probably something that everybody has a concept of, so real short and quick. Active income are those investments where you have to physically put in some effort to make sure that that investment can produce some income on a continuous basis or in a one-time lump sum. Whereas passive, you don't have to put those physical efforts for, but your interest in this property, in this particular investment, always produces an income no matter what it is you're doing, whether you're working it or not. Those examples in the market includes stocks that pay dividends to the stockholders. Again, you don't have to do anything to earn those dividends, but those companies, as your ownership interest and as their profit increase, they pay persons with ownership interest or stocks in that company a portion of those proceeds, the portions of the gains that they made during the course of the year. Or in the real estate standpoint, those continuous rental proceeds that you get every month, whether you're knocking on the door being a landlord or whether you're at the beach chilling with your family. So that's the first thing that we understand, active versus passive. And so the big focus and the key with real estate, passive is typically the way you want to go. You want to put limited efforts, not a lot of physical efforts into the property, into the investment, but you want to be the benefactor of those rental proceeds. In addition to receiving the rental proceeds, the other benefit that you get from having investment property, again, you get 2 benefits. You get the actual rental proceeds every month, but as that property increases in value, you actually get a gain in the equity in your actual home that you own that you're actually renting out. So it's really a double benefit that you get from actually owning real estate. And so with that being said, one of the biggest reasons that a lot of people invest in real estate for rental proceeds is, one, is a great way to produce a passive income on a consistent basis. But the tax code is favorable to people making investments in the marketplace. The more people who can engage in property investments, the more people who can invest in the marketplace, the more people who can open small businesses, the more this economy has those things going, the greater that the economy is going to thrive. With that being said, tax codes are always written in a manner favorable to encourage stimulation of the economy. Therefore, it encourages business in a lot of aspects. So some of the reasons why some of your wealthiest millionaires and billionaires pay so little in taxes is because when you have real estate, you actually get great tax breaks. So I'm going to talk about one of the main real estate principles that are used a lot of time when you're dealing with real estate. We'll actually cover two. So the first one is example number one. If I have a principal resident, and I'm not going to write on the board for this one. If I have a principal residence I purchased for $500,000, I lived there for 10 years, I actually work real hard, do my due diligence, I have complete ownership interest in that property, I don't owe any mortgage on it, I bought it $500,000 cash, 10 years later that property is worth $1 million. Well, because that property is my principal residence or my domicile, when I sell that property, I'm excluded from paying capital gains taxes on the profits up to $250,000 if I'm single. If I'm married, I'm excluded from paying capital gains up to $500,000. So again, if I sell that property for $1 million, if I'm single, $250,000 of that is tax-free. The remaining $750,000 is going to be taxed. If I'm married, $500,000 is tax-free. The remaining $500,000 is going to get taxed for those capital gain taxes. Now let's compare that to ownership of an investment property. The key tax benefit for an investment property is a 1031 like-kind exchange. Now I'm going to go to the board just because I want to make sure that we can kind of see it out, because that's how I learn easiest, and it may make things a little bit clearer. So a like-kind exchange says this. I have this investment property right here. This is my terrible house that looks like a muffin or a mushroom. But I have this investment property here that I purchased in 2020, and I paid $500 cash, $500,000 cash for it. Okay, this property has 1, 2, 3, 4. This property has 4 units, and I charge $1,000 a month for each unit. So I purchased this house for $500,000, but in addition, I make monthly $4,000 on this property from the rental proceeds. Fast forward, 2027, we can all go outside. It's after coronavirus is over, things are kind of back to normal. Again, now the rental proceeds that I charge each month has went up from, instead of $1,000 per unit, now I charge $1,500 per unit. So every month I'm making $6,000 in rental proceeds. The actual value of the property has increased from $500,000 to $1 million. So now I have a passive stream of income on this property where I'm not really putting any efforts in, but I get $6,000 a month in rental proceeds, and the actual value of this property in and of itself is $1 million. Well, with a 1031 like-kind exchange, here's the kicker. If I decide to sell this property, as long as I buy a like-kind property, what that essentially means is, if I sell this property for $1 million, and I sell it, and I purchase an even bigger residence, now I purchase a 6-bedroom unit. As long as I use the proceeds from this sale, this $1 million, to get an investment property that's bigger and better and has the potential to produce me more rental income, I don't have to pay any taxes on this $1 million. So that's a huge tax benefit. It provides the person who has that interest in real estate to move up to a bigger, better investment where they have a potential to realize a lot more income from rental proceeds, but also gain a lot more equity because the new property that they're purchasing is bigger, better, more expensive, more tenants. The value is likely going to go up. So that's one of the huge tax benefits that is taken advantage of, and that should be taken advantage of when you're investing in real estate. Again, you can eliminate paying any taxes so long as you sell that investment property and purchase a like-kind investment property that's bigger and better and has the potential to make you more rental income. And so that's one of the meat and potatoes of taking advantage of investments when you're looking at real estate. I'll tell you some of the key things you have to understand when you're dealing with real estate. Generally, most times it's an industry where you need a little bit of cash to start and some cash to get in. I know a lot of people out there can buy properties, and there are certain loans where you can get properties. For example, a VA loan. You can use a VA loan, purchase a residence, not have any money down. The catch with the VA residence, it has to serve as your primary residence for 2 years before you can use that as an investment property. But typically, having some money to use as a down payment is always a big plus. It tends to make things a little bit easier. I think the second thing you understand is, hey, this reminds me of when I opened my own practice straight out of law school. I love the practice of law, but I don't like the business of law. I did not like running the business, the marketing. I want to go to court, do my thing in court, help the client out, but don't come back and try to pay me in a watch when I just represented you from writing stolen checks. Come on now. Nobody, nah, man, I need a cashier's check, homie. And so that same logic applies for real estate. With real estate, it could potentially be active if you want to pursue that landlord role. That means you're checking, doing a background check on potential tenants. You're organizing repairs, as these repairs are called in by the tenants. But there are a lot of companies out there that for about 10% of the actual rental proceeds, they'll handle all of the administrative things for you. And the only thing you have to do is sign off on essentially any type of repairs and things that come up of that nature. And I think the last thing that you really have to take into consideration when you're looking at rental property is don't over leverage yourself. A lot of times people invest in real estate, they don't have cash to pay for an entire property outright. And so they put a little bit of money down, the same way we do when we do any normal property transaction. And once we put that money down, we have a rental property, we charge rental proceeds every month, but we still have a mortgage obligation. You want to make sure that you don't leverage yourself too far. For example, in my property that I own, that I rent out, I want to say maybe it's been vacant over the past 10 years, 3 or 4 months. And that 3 or 4 months, I'm still required to satisfy the mortgage obligation on that property. So I had to make sure that my finances weren't leveraged too far. I couldn't be over leveraged. I had to be able to make that payment on that property so I can get it up to snuff to rent back out so I can have this income coming back in. But me making that payment couldn't impact how I live my life, how I have to pay for the current obligations I have. So you want to make sure that you definitely don't over leverage yourself. A lot of times people think, oh, if I'm going to get into the rental game, I'm going to buy this big immaculate house in the suburbs. And that's definitely not the way to go. I'll tell you my view when I'm doing rental property. I like to look for properties that are, 1,000 to 1,500 square feet, 2 or 3 bedrooms is one of those good starter residences for maybe a family of 2, a newlywed couple, or a newlywed couple, or a younger couple who has maybe 1 child. Those are the type of properties that I like to look for when you're dealing with, real estate investment. If you get a big 4,000 square foot house in the suburbs, places like that, most times people don't want to rent. They want that as what they consider their forever home. And so with that being said, you got to look for something, one, know the neighborhood. You want to get a neighborhood that people are actually coming to. Preferably schools, universities, hospitals are all good signs that the property value in that neighborhood is going to go up. You want to get a property in a neighborhood that's, one, not too affluent, but it's a good starter home for people who are trying to get on their feet. Maybe a young couple, like I said, a young couple with a family. Those are some of the things that I think are really kind of the foundational, fundamental principles of, hey, stepping your feet into the rental game and learning how to take advantages of some of the tax breaks and earning that passive income over time. And with that being said, that wraps up this video. I hope everybody had a chance to learn something.